Hey guys, on today's episode, we're going to be going over the step-by-step process to remove vandalism. In this case, we have scratches all over the car. Of course, this is a 2020 Subaru Outback. Now, I've shot a full winterization episode. You check that out in a little bit. But on this episode, we're going to be going over how to remove very deep scratches. Now, in this case, it was a child who was trying to do a favor and wash the car with rocks. We've all heard the same story, but it is equivalent to vandalism with respect to the level of scratches. So we're going to go over really three things. One, if we can compound and get those out, which I think some scratches we can, or sand and get some scratches out. But if we can't, then we're going to sand, put touch up in, sand, heat it up. We're going to go over that whole entire process if it's really bad. So we got a lot going on to get this car back in shape today. On this episode of Drive Protect. So right off the bat, pretty reasonable. 4.5, 4.6, 4.3. Let's go over here real quick. 4.9, and go over here. All right, so pretty much everything is within 4-ish, 4 plus. Next thing I do is I go inside the door jamb and I measure it. Now, if you look here, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to myself, okay, 10. That's the door jamb is more than the paint. So now I'm going, okay. Now I'll go to the door jamb over here. Bang, back down to 2. Now that's normal. So if I go over here, this better be less. Yeah, 2.3. So this makes sense. So what's happening now is this is very normal, this area. You're gonna have less paint than the outside, and then I basically do the rule of thumb. We're gonna address this in a second. The rule of thumb. So let's say this is 2 on the inside and the outside was about 5. So that's a spread of 3. So that means I have enough to work with. That's safe. When I came in here and did this, I don't understand what's going on here. Then I looked and went, oh, okay, I see. There's dings and dents here. This was repainted. So this is probably a used car that was purchased from a dealership. They saw that there was a lot of scratches here. Somebody comes in, lightly puts a little coat there, makes it look brand new, but paint depth gauge found it. So what does that mean? Nothing. I just found that interesting. So I come back in here. Let's see if this was repainted. This should be less than 4. So here you go. So it's basically half, which makes sense. Okay, so in other words, the door jambs are about 2, except that area, and the outside is about 4 or 5. So check mark, we have enough paint to go in and start doing a little bit of work. If it was less, I'd be like, I'm not sure if I want to sand. I'm not sure if I want to sit there and touch things up because it's just, there's not enough paint to work with. So step 1 approved, we can continue. I'm behind the camera now, and if I hold the camera right there, you can see there's an X right here, and there's another scratch right there. Now, the first little test, aside from just measuring the paint, which is a pretty quick one, is if I go like this with my nail, you see it kind of just hang up a little bit, and I have of course I have air leaking over there, so you may not be able to hear it, but let me get closer. Can you hear that? It's a little, I'm catching my nail just a little bit. It's not bad. And this one up here is not that bad either. So what we're gonna do is step 1, I'm just going to compound this with a wool pad and see what happens, clean it up and be like, okay, can I live with that? Because the idea is just not to bring all of the paint down just to get the scratch out. That's usually the challenge. Like, can I get this out? Nope, of course, but I'm gonna have to lower all this around it, and is it worth doing that? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So first thing, let's compound. That's a little deep. Let's compound and see what happens. So this is after round 1. I'm gonna try to pull a camera in. You can see it's much better if you were 2, 3, 4 feet away. I'm gonna try to pull a camera in and catch the light, so be patient for a second here. You can still see the scratch right there. That's the edges rounded off from being sharp like a V, and now they're rounded off. That's the rounded offness of it. Now the decision is, do you wanna live with that or not? On this car, 100% you wanna live with that. Because now I'm not lowering everything around here too much. I'm gonna take the paint depth gauge and show you that now we still have tons of integrity, UV protection in the paint that hasn't been removed, because I can live with this. And I know the customer is gonna live with this. They're fine. Show car, maybe not. But that's the imperfection. Now I'm gonna pull out, that's what you see. And you're like, well, I can't really see anything. That's my point. You kind of can't see anything right there unless you pull that far out. You see a little bit of indentation there? On a Subaru Outback that's hauling kids around, the purpose here is to make sure that nothing rusts, because they were concerned it was all the way through. In this particular case, it isn't. The rest of the car, there's a few other spots where we're gonna have to change, but this is one where I go, good enough is good enough on this car, because you don't want to jeopardize everything just to, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing, you know what I mean? Don't ruin everything because of one little scratch right there. We're good to go on this. So let's see how much has been reduced by me just compounding. So clearly you can see pretty much nothing. Inconceivable if it was. So we've basically taken off nothing in terms of the clear coat protection. We've reduced the scratch significantly. Yes, there is a little bit of an outline here if you catch it in the right light, but at the same time, you have to remember that the UV protection rises to the surface of the clear coat. So if the clear coat, you know, is this, I'm making this up, right? This thick, the top portion of it tends to have all of the UV protection in the top portion. So if you sand it and I go, and I shrink it down, you're taking away like the best layers of protection of the clear coat. Even though the clear coat was like this before, and now it's like this, you know, after you sound it, this top portion of it, I can't do it because I got two hands, this top portion, like right here, is where all the good meat is. So if you take that good meat and take it away, now it's going to sort of, you know, for lack of a better word, get a sunburn a little bit faster than it would have before. So we're good to go on this one. I'm gonna finish compounding just to blend everything in, and we'll go find another scratch. For the most part, the scratches that were on the driver's side were all worthy of just compound, and I used very, very heavy DA course. Exfoliate's not gonna do that. That's just to really exfoliate the skin, make it much cleaner and prepared for coating. This is, I needed some heavy stuff. And it did remove those scratches, which is great. Now, when we come to the plastics, you can still see there's a scratch right here where the rock went like this, and then went on the paint. Now, I just took those out on the paint, but I'm gonna do the same thing here. Now, the difference is there isn't a ton of clear, you know, there's a ton of clear coat on this, there isn't here. So we need to be a little bit more careful in terms of the time that we spend on this with respect to the heat, because it is plastic. It will heat up and it will burn a little bit faster. Now, you can see that there's swirls in it. That's just from washing at a mechanical car wash, but this is what I'm focused on, that scratch right there. In the process, I'll be able to get this out. I am gonna use a 6-inch on this. You can go to 3-inch, it's probably appropriate, but I'm gonna use a 6-inch just because I can manipulate the tool and kind of keep it flat at the same time. And you'll see this will come out. The moral of the story is go a little bit less on this, a little bit less pressure, a little bit less heat, and give it some time, go and check it. So you may do 2 or 3 passes, check it, and then so on until you become comfortable. So the bottom line on this side, compound works really, really well. Now when we work to the back, we might have to do a little bit more sanding. When we work to the other side, we may have to sand and then use a lot more you know, touch-up technique. So let's just finish this one up and know that you can do the same technique on plastics as well. After the compound, you can see the scratch is gone, but wow, there's tons of swirls. Totally normal, especially on soft black plastic like this. So I knew the scratch was going to come out. I also knew that this is very common and normal. So after this is when you'd use the white pad with exfoliate to get this out. You can see not so much here, right, with the compound, because it's actually very robust paint. Subaru is incredible when it comes to paint. That's a side note, but I now need to go in and polish this. I'll show you what it looks like afterwards, and it'll be restored, perfect, scratch is gone, and you also have, you know, this piano black looking really, really good in a 2-step process. So you can remove it from plastic as well. All right, so I just finished up with 1500, 3000, compounded, and then polished. And you can see really good. And that was significantly deeper than the driver's side. Not as much as what I'm about to face, which is the passenger side. But the other interesting thing is during the process, you always want to check. And you just kind of, everything is just the discipline. It's just going through the same routine, right? I just assumed that this, which is metal, was the same as this. This isn't. This is plastic. And that matters because sanding is really helpful on plastic. Why? Because sanding is actually less, creating less heat. And the less heat you create in plastic, the better, because it'll flash really quick because it doesn't dissipate as well as metal. Meaning if I were to take a lighter and heat this thing up, it's gonna move the heat from over here and over here, and it's gonna spread it out. And if I were to take a lighter and just light this right here, it's gonna heat this little area, which means it's gonna get hot very quick, and it's gonna, it's gonna crumble. It's gonna curl, right? That's gonna happen if you're using a machine and you're creating a lot of heat. You can have it twist. And if I didn't know that going in, I may have just really tried to compound that area really heavily. But because I used my paint depth gauge and realized, oh, wait a second, this is plastic? How did I not catch that? That's plastic. I'm gonna go in and just sand it because it introduces way less heat. Now, most people think sanding is, oh, that's way more dangerous. I guess in some cases it could be, but if you're doing it properly, using water, depending on what pad you have, what sandpaper you have, it's really gonna keep everything nice and cool, and then your result is this. So that's kind of a little lesson learned on this area here, even for myself. I just assumed these were the same thing, but this must be some replaceable piece, which is kind of fascinating. All right, with that being said, let's go work on the dreaded passenger side. There's a lot more damage here. All right, so I finished up the car and it looks 1,000 times better. If you remember, there's a huge gouge right here and it's gone. We'll do the quick walk around. There was a line right down here. You can see that is totally gone. Now, this side, because it was a little on the lighter side, I used compounding with a wool pad, and that wool pad really got through the paint. Here, I actually had to bump up and go to sanding. We did 1,500 and 3,000. Now, I probably would have used 1,000, I just didn't have it with me. So if you had 1,000, that would be totally reasonable. Here we had a lesson that was learned that I went to go measure the paint and I went, oh, I didn't even realize that this was not metal. So one, measure the paint so you know how thick it is and how much room you have to play. And two, make sure you know what you're polishing, because metal polish is different than plastic in terms of its heat absorption. Now over here, remember this one, I don't know what was going on, tic-tac-toe here or something. I would say this is probably the weakest panel that I have. One, because it's super thin, and two, it had the most damage on it. I'm not sure if I can pick it up, but if I catch it just right with the camera, you can see that there's still sort of, instead of the big V scratches, it's kind of like that now. So there's a little bit of a little indentation, but I think for all things being equal here, I think that is going to be sufficient for them. And then this was a massive gouge. This one I went in and did the 1,500 and then 3,000 and compounded and polished it out, and it looks so much better. Plus there's like door little scuffs and things here, little white marks just from probably getting in and out, and that looks 1,000 times better as well. The front I polished up, looks amazing. The thing to take away from this is Subaru paint is really, really robust. So instead of having to go in, which I wish we sort of did in terms of a gouge, put touch-up paint and then do that process. Fortunately for this car, we didn't have to do it. Unfortunately for this video, we're gonna have to do it in another one because it just doesn't exist here. This was just such strong paint that I was able to do a lot of that with sanding. And you can see, I mean, to take out those big gouges, this is something that I think that you can actually do at home if you have sandpaper. Now, before we go, I wanna show you something really easy. It's just a quick trick. When you're doing door handles with the fingernail scuffs, pretty much every car has that, and obviously you can't get in there with a machine. It's just kind of difficult, so I'll show you a quick little trick to make sure that those are removed. Okay, for step one, you really want to get this handle out of the way because you need as much room as you can to get some leverage in there, because you are going to be using your hands and a towel. So the further this is away, the better, but you don't want to hold it at the same time. To do that, I learned this from Kevin Brown, you're going to take a little card or anything similar size and strength, microfiber towel, wrap the card in the microfiber towel so it's nice and thin, but still sturdy behind it. Pinch it and then pull this open and jam that in there. And now you can see the space between here and here has just increased. So now I can really get my hand in here as easy as one could be without removing this handle. So to get behind here, you're gonna take another towel, put a little dot of compound on there, and you're gonna get in there with your finger, wrap your finger around, dot it a little bit so it doesn't spill, and then take your hand and put a bit of pressure on there and move it back and forth. Not super complicated, but you're sort of acting like a microfiber or let's say wool compounding pad. And so you gotta really give it a push, and it's not gonna immediately go away. You're gonna have to do this multiple times, again, because you don't have a machine doing the work for you. But this will work really, really well. In certain cases, I've seen Kevin take it on his finger and go in with a glove on, of course, and go in and do this with just your finger. And then I've actually seen him use a paintbrush or like an interior type brush with stiffer bristles to do this, to get the scratches out around emblems, like right inside the emblem where you can't get a machine for sure, and you certainly can't get your finger. You can use the bristles to do that. So keep that in mind if there's like a tight spot in here where you can't get the towel. But for the most part, I just use the towel method. But it will get your hands kind of sore because you're gonna do this for a while. And go from underneath as well. But like I said, for whatever reason, Subaru paint is really just robust and easy to work with. It's kind of, I've said that for years, by the way. That's not just on this episode. There you go. Probably do it 1 or 2 more times, but that looks really good. So yeah, there's the quick trick just to open this up. Just make sure life easy, otherwise you're sitting there holding it and you get tired quick. Just that little bit made it look so much better. Let me see if I can catch it on camera. Okay, so there you go. That is a little bit of the behind the scenes of how I removed the scratches on this Outback. Now, full disclosure, when I first saw it, I thought for sure that I would need to touch it up, let it dry, sand it, touch it up, let it dry, sand. So we're gonna go over that process probably on another car that comes in. This one, the strength was so, it was just so robust that I could sand it down and then polish it out, and the scratches were gone. So that's a great thing, but I would say that's probably 2/3 the depth of the scratch that I thought it was. If it was deeper, we would have done that other process. But nonetheless, it looks fantastic. And I will say Subaru paint is just unbelievable. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing. If you guys know, leave a comment below. Also keep in mind what we just did, what the video you just watched was like 1/100th of what I did on the car for this winterization episode. So I'm trying to push you over to watch the other one because it's a really good episode, and I didn't want to sort of drown in the whole sanding aspect in the winterization because it kind of didn't make sense for that one. But anyhow, if you guys have any questions about what I did, shoot me an email, Larry@ammonyc.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.